In my past life, I spent all my savings on her, took on debt for her, and in the end she abandoned me. She linked arms with the rich heir and laughed. I was only after your money. I never loved you. I died on the day my heart broke. Reborn back to the day she cheated me out of my money, I smiled. This time, I won't be the fool again. When I pulled out the photos of her cheating at the proposal, in front of everyone, she fell apart. Please forgive me. I turned and walked away. Too late. Chapter 1. The hospital ward was very cold, the air conditioning set too low, the blanket as thin as paper. I lay on the bed, staring at the cracks in the ceiling, counting how many there were. 1, 2, 3. By the time I reached the 17th, a nurse pushed the door open, changed the 4 bag, and left without a word. The drops fell from the 4, one by one, very slowly. I stared at that droplet of medicine and wondered if I could hold on until tomorrow. The doctor said I wouldn't survive the night. Broken heart syndrome, compounded by long-term malnutrition. My body had already collapsed. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about these past 2 years. I met Sophia 2 years ago. She was beautiful, her smile sweet, and she treated me so well there were no complaints. Every morning, good morning, darling. Every night, good night, I miss you. She said, darling, you've worked hard. I'll take good care of you. She said, let's get married. I want to have a home with you. She said, my parents really like you. They say you're a good person. I believed her, completely, wholeheartedly. Darling, I want to buy a bag. Give me 5,000, please. Okay. My friends all went traveling. Let's go too. Is 20,000 enough? Okay. I have an emergency at home. Can you lend me 300,000? My parents are ill. All right, I'll transfer it to you right now. Every time she asked for money, I never questioned why. 300,000 in savings, plus 100,000 from online loans. I gave it all to her. For her, I worked late into the night, scrimped and saved, surviving on only 2 meals a day. For her, I took on debt that made monthly repayments suffocating. For her, I almost cut off my social life, devoting every moment to her. Would she love me the same? Was our relationship real? Would she spend her life with me? At that time, I thought the answer was yes. The door opened. Sophia walked in, arm in arm with a man. Adrian, the rich second generation of our company. Wealthy family, drives luxury cars, lives in a villa. At the office, he always put on an air of superiority, treating everyone like idiots. He saw me lying in a hospital bed, and the corner of his mouth curled into a faint sneer. The smile was slight, as if he were looking at a joke. I asked weakly, why are you here? Sophia laughed. I came to see if you were dead. If you were, I'd be relieved. Then I wouldn't have to pay back that 400,000. I was stunned. What did you say? I said I never loved you. Sophia tightened her arm around Adrian's, as if showing off something. Her hand was very pale against Adrian's black suit, strikingly noticeable. I was just after your money. You're so easy to fool. If I didn't trick you, who would I trick? Adrian laughed beside her. Exactly, you fool like this deserve to be conned. Sophia looked at me, her gaze icy. Do you know? Every time you transfer me money, I laugh inside. I laugh at how stupid you are, how easy you are to deceive. My parents weren't sick at all. I gave all that money to Adrian. He's the one I truly love. She sneered. You're just an ATM. Why do you have to talk to me about love? I looked at them and said nothing. The longer I looked, the more the tears flowed. Then a sharp pain tore through my chest, and a mouthful of blood flew out. I was dead. Dead on the day my heart broke. Dead on the day she abandoned me. I died the day I gave everything. I wasn't willing to accept it. I had given everything, and in return I received betrayal. I loved her for 2 years, and what I got was, I was only after your money. I took on the debt, and in return I got, you're just an ATM. If there's a next life, I will never be that fool again. I will make her regret it. I will make her pay. I will make her regret it for the rest of her life. Then, in the darkness, I saw a light. Chapter 2. The familiar ceiling. My apartment. I bolted upright and looked around. The familiar furniture, the familiar arrangements. The glass on the bedside table was still where I'd left it yesterday. The pothose on the windowsill, its leaves were still that same green. Everything was exactly as it had been yesterday. But I knew this was not yesterday. I took out my phone to check the time. March 15th, 2024. I swiped the screen twice with my finger to make sure the date was right. On this day, Sophia asked me to transfer $300,000 to her. I had been reborn. Back to the day, I was deceived. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the phone screen for 3 seconds. In my previous life, I didn't hesitate to transfer her $300,000. She then swindled another $100,000 from me. She ended up with Adrian and abandoned me. I died wronged on the day my heart broke. This time, I won't be that fool again. Darling, you're awake? Sophia came out of the kitchen wearing the dress I had bought her, carrying a glass of water. Darling, I made you breakfast. Come and eat. She set the water on the table, sat down beside me, and linked her arm through mine. Darling, there's an emergency in my parents' home. Can you lend me $300,000? My parents are ill and urgently need the money. Her eyes were red, and she looked very anxious. She gripped my arm tightly, as if she relied on me. In my previous life, seeing her like that tore me up inside. Without a second thought, I transferred 300,000 yuan to her. This time, I looked at her and said nothing. Then I spoke. Fine, but I need to check how much is in my account first. I opened my mobile banking app and deliberately moved slowly. Sophia hurried beside me. Honey, hurry up, my parents are waiting. I'm looking. I stared at the screen, my finger hovering over the transfer button for 2 seconds before pulling away. I frowned. It looks like my account's been frozen. I can't transfer any money. Sophia froze. What? How could that be? I don't know. Maybe it'll take a few days to unfreeze. Sophia's expression changed. A few days? But my parents are waiting. I can't help it either. I don't control the bank. I put my phone on the table and looked at her. Don't worry, I'll handle it as soon as possible. Okay, I will. Sophia left, muttering as she went, how unlucky. She didn't know that I had watched every expression on her face. I had heard every one of her lies loud and clear. She didn't know I was no longer the fool I had been in my previous life. Watching her walk away, I picked up my phone. How to gather evidence of infidelity. Can chat logs be used as evidence? Is publicly exposing infidelity illegal? Can audio recordings be used as evidence? Search results popped up one by one. I read them one by one, and I memorized each one. I have memories from my past life. I know when she was with Adrian. I know where they went on dates. I know what they said to each other. But I know that time waits for no one. Memories will gradually fade, and I must hurry before those memories blur completely to gather enough evidence. I will collect the evidence, and then, at the most opportune moment, expose her in public. Make her regret it for the rest of her life. I sat on the sofa, recalling everything from my previous life. I remember every detail of how Sophia deceived me, clear as day. Whenever she asked me for money, she always acted so gentle. Each time she got the cash, she'd celebrate with Adrian. Every time she was with me, she laughed at me in her heart. That fool still doesn't know. When the money's in my hands, I'll dump him. He's such an easy mark. If I don't scam him, who will I scam? I heard those words in my past life, but it was already too late. This time, I'll make her know who the real fool is. I'll make her know I'm not someone to be conned. I'll make her know that those who betray me will pay. But I knew I had to hurry. Memories would fade gradually, and if I didn't gather enough evidence before they blurred completely, I would truly fail. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside the window were the familiar streets, familiar buildings, familiar pedestrians. Everything was just as it had been in my previous life. But I'm different now. I turned around and looked at the familiar room. This time, my life is in my own hands. This time, I won't play the fool anymore. This time, I'm going to make her regret it for the rest of her life. Tomorrow, I start gathering evidence. Chapter 3. I didn't go straight home after work. I knew Sophia would be meeting Adrian today. Memories from my previous life told me that they met every Friday at a cafe. That cafe was called XX Cafe on the downtown shopping street. I parked the car in the lot on the corner, then walked over. The cafe had large windows, and you could see the people inside from the street. I hid in the shadow of the corner and watched Sophia walk into the cafe. She was wearing the dress I had bought her, smiling happily. Adrian was already there, dressed in a designer suit. They sat together, laughing happily. Sophia hooked her arm through Adrian's and leaned on his shoulder. The sight tightened something in my chest. In my past life, seeing this scene had broken my heart so badly I nearly fainted. This time, I calmly took out my phone and turned on the voice recorder. I hid in a corner outside the cafe and recorded with my phone. Sophia and Adrian's conversation drifted over, fragmented. That fool still doesn't know. He actually thinks my parents are sick. Sophia laughed sweetly. Adrian laughed. Ha ha, he's so easy to trick. Sophia looped her arm through Adrian's. Once the money's in hand, I'll dump him and be with you. Adrian gave a thumbs up. You're amazing. You scammed him out of 400,000. Sophia said disdainfully, he's so stupid, it's easy to trick him. Every time I say there's an emergency at home, he hands over the money without hesitation. Adrian asked, didn't he say his account was frozen? Sophia said irritably, yeah, I don't know what's up with that. He said it would take a few days to unfreeze. Adrian was a little worried. Could it be that he discovered something? Sophia sneered, impossible. He's so stupid, how could he find out? It must be the bank's mistake. People like him would never suspect me. So what do you plan to do? Sophia said, wait a few days. He can't run away anyway. Once the money is in hand, I'll break up with him. Then we can be public about being together. Adrian laughed. Ha ha, you're ruthless. Sophia said coldly. With people like him, you don't need to be polite. He's just an ATM, nothing worth holding on to. Besides, his salary barely covers 1 month's expenses for me. You're the one with the money. Adrian said proudly. My parents give me tens of thousands in pocket money every month. More than enough for you. Sophia smiled sweetly. I love you the most. I listened to the recording, my fingers gripping the phone tight. Anger, revulsion, heartbreak. So it was true. In her eyes, I was just a fool. She had never loved me. Everything I gave her was a joke to her. Every time she asked me for money, she was mocking me in her head. She had been with Adrian all along. I forced myself to calm down. This time, I won't be a fool anymore. I'm going to make her regret it for the rest of her life. I saved the recordings and slipped out of the cafe. That evening, I sat in my apartment, going through the evidence I had gathered that day. The recordings, the photos, everything was under my control. I unlocked my phone and searched. How to expose an affair in public. In what setting does exposing someone work best? Exposing an affair at a proposal. I stared at the screen for 3 seconds. The proposal scene. That was a great idea. If she were exposed publicly at the proposal, how satisfying that would be. I looked at my phone and began a plan. This time, I will make her know that those who betray me must pay the price. The phone rang. Ryan sent a message. Bro, free tonight? Want to grab a drink? I stared at the screen and thought for a moment. Ryan is my best bud, loyal and blunt. In my past life, he always thought Sophia was trouble, but I didn't listen. This time, I need his help. I replied, okay, see you at the usual place. Half an hour later, we met at a bar. Ryan saw me and frowned. Bro, you don't look so good. What's wrong? I put my phone on the table and didn't say anything. Ryan asked, is it Sophia? I told you there was something off about that woman. I looked at him. What do you think is wrong with her? Ryan took a sip of his drink and said, every time I see her, I feel like her smile is fake. And whenever she asks for money, it's so natural, as if it's owed to her. He paused for a moment and said, bro, I'm not bad-mouthing you. I just think you should be careful. I nodded, I know. Ryan looked at me. Do you really know? I said, really? Thanks, brother. Ryan patted my shoulder. If anything comes up, just come to me. I looked at him and nodded. This time, I wouldn't carry it alone again. Chapter 4. The next day at work, I saw Sophia smiling very gently. I asked, darling, how are your parents? Sophia froze for a moment. They're still in the hospital. The doctor says they need surgery. I asked with concern, how much will it cost? Sophia's eyes lit up. About 200,000, I guess. Then my account will be unfrozen. I'll transfer it to you as soon as possible. Sophia smiled. Thank you, darling. You're so good. I smiled too. She still thought I was that fool. She still thought I would give her the money without hesitation. She didn't know that I already had all the evidence. She didn't know that a nightmare awaited her. On Monday afternoon, Sophia suddenly came to the office to see me. She looped her arm through mine. Darling, I missed you. Shall we have dinner together tonight? I smiled. Sure. Then I'll come to your place and cook for you. A thought stirred in me. She rarely came to my house before. Was she suddenly coming to snoop around? I said, sure, I'll wait for you. That evening, Sophia arrived and prepared a table full of delicious dishes. At dinner, she suddenly asked, Darling, have you felt anything strange lately? Strange how? Sophia smiled. Nothing really, just feel like you've changed recently. I pretended not to notice. Changed? In what way? Sophia looped her arm through mine. You've become gentler. I prefer you like this. I looked at her and said nothing. She was probing me. She wanted to know if I discovered anything. Sophia suddenly said, Darling, may I see your phone? Why? Sophia smiled sweetly. Nothing. I just wanted to see your photos. I handed her my phone. Here. She took the phone, flipped through it for a moment, then handed it back to me. There's nothing interesting. I looked at her, a cold laugh in my heart. She was checking my phone. She wanted to see if I had discovered anything. She didn't know that I had already hidden all the evidence. She couldn't find a thing. That weekend, I followed Sophia again. She still met Adrian, still at XX Cafe. I hid in a corner and recorded with my phone. Sophia laughed happily. That fool still believed me about my parents being sick, ha ha ha. Adrian gave a thumbs up. You're amazing. You scammed him out of 400,000. Sophia was somewhat displeased. It hasn't come through yet. He said the account was frozen. Adrian was a bit worried. Could it be that he found out something? Sophia sneered. Impossible. He's so stupid. How could he find out? Every time I ask for money, he gives it to me without hesitation. He would never suspect me. Suddenly Sophia said, I checked his phone yesterday. I didn't find anything. Adrian laughed. That's good. Be careful. Don't let him find out. Sophia said, Don't worry. He's so stupid he won't notice. I listened to the recording and smiled. She'd given me another piece of evidence. She didn't know I'd already seen through her test. That night, I searched Sophia's name online. To my surprise, she hadn't just cheated me. There was a forum post titled, Scammed out of 100,000 by Sophia. Everyone be careful. I clicked the post and read several replies. I've been cheated too. She swindled me out of 50,000. Same here. She said there was an emergency at home, but she actually gave it to her boyfriend to spend. She's a liar, preying on decent people. I reported it to the police, but they said there wasn't enough evidence. Her methods of deception were very professional. She always said there was an emergency at home. I messaged a few of the victims privately and arranged to meet them. We exchanged evidence and information, preparing to expose Sophia together. Chapter 5. That evening, I posted a moment on my social feed. Some people aren't worth trusting. Once you see through them, you can let them go. The accompanying image was blank. A few minutes later, friends began to comment. Ryan said, Bro, what's up? Who's been messing with you? Amelia said, What happened? Colleague A, what's wrong? Need any help? Colleague B, who pissed you off? Tell me, and I'll get back at them for you. I didn't reply. I just looked at the comments and smiled. I will make everyone know Sophia's true face. But not now. I will expose her publicly at the most opportune moment. I will make everyone witness her regret. A few minutes later, Sophia messaged me privately. Dear, what did you mean by that post of yours? Nothing really, just work stuff. Really? Are you okay? I'm fine, what's up? Nothing. I was just worried about you. Have you been under too much stress lately? No, I'm fine. That's good. By the way, has your account been unfrozen? Not yet. The bank said it will take a week. All right. She began to get nervous. She was afraid I'd discover something. But she didn't dare ask directly, afraid I'd grow suspicious. Every sentence she spoke was testing me. But I knew she only wanted to confirm that I was still that fool. The next day at work, Ryan came to see me. Seeing my Moments post, he came running early to ask. He frowned and asked, "Bro, what did you mean by that post on your Moments yesterday?" I sighed. "Nothing much, just realized some people aren't worth trusting." Ryan frowned. "Who? Is it Sophia?" I said nothing. Ryan said, "I told you. There's something off about that woman. Every time I see her, her smile looks so fake." I said, "She's so good to you. How could she be fake?" Ryan patted my shoulder. "You're too gullible. Don't you think it's a little too natural every time she asks for money? Like it's a given." I smiled. "Maybe." Ryan said, "Bro, I'm not bad-mouthing her. I'm just saying, be careful. Don't let yourself get conned." I said, "I know, thanks, bro." Ryan said, "If you need anything, reach out anytime. I'll help you." He paused for a moment, then said, "By the way, yesterday I saw Sophia with a man at a cafe." My heart skipped. "What kind of man?" Ryan said, "I don't know. He looks wealthy, drives a luxury car." I laughed. "Maybe he's her friend." Ryan said, "Maybe, but you should be careful." I said, "I know. Thanks, brother." Amelia came to see me too. She usually didn't say much, but she was attentive and always noticed when someone's mood changed. She asked softly, "Are you okay?" I said, "I'm fine. Thank you for caring." Amelia looked at me seriously. "Take care of yourself. Don't let someone who's not worth it hurt you." I looked at her and smiled. "Thank you, Amelia." There was a softness in Amelia's eyes. "I'll always be by your side, supporting you." She paused, then said, "By the way, yesterday I saw Sophia with a man at a cafe. They looked very close." A twinge stirred in my chest. "What kind of man?" Amelia said, "I don't know, but you should be careful." I said, "I know. Thank you, Amelia." At noon, Sophia came to the company to see me. She grabbed my hand. "Dear, about what you posted on Moments, I'm really worried about you." I smiled. "It's nothing work stuff. Don't worry about it." "Really?" She looked at me, her gaze a little anxious. I patted her head. "Really? How are your parents? Have they had the surgery?" Sophia was taken aback for a moment. Not yet. The doctor said we have to wait a while." I asked, "Is that enough money?" Sophia's eyes lit up. "Still a little short. Once my account is unfrozen, I'll transfer it to you." Sophia smiled. "Thank you, darling. You're so good." I looked at her and snorted inwardly. She was asking for money again. She thought that as long as she acted concerned, I would give it to her. She didn't know I had already seen through her disguise. She didn't know I had already gathered all the evidence. She didn't know what awaited her. That night, I kept organizing the evidence. Recordings, photos, chat logs, and testimonies from other victims. I organized all of it into a folder and saved it on my phone. Then I began to think, where should I expose her? The company annual party? A gathering of friends? No, I want to expose her at the moment she least expects it, in front of everyone. For example, at a proposal. If she were exposed publicly during a proposal, how satisfying that would be. I looked at my phone and smiled. All right, it's settled. Chapter 6. That weekend, I met with the other victims. We gathered in a cafe to exchange evidence and information. "She swindled me out of 100,000, one young man said. He looked furious. She said there was an emergency at home, but she used it to buy her boyfriend a car. "She cheated me out of 50,000, a girl said, clenching her fist, saying she needed surgery, but it was all a lie. "She cheated me out of 80,000, another boy said, claiming she needed to pay off a credit card, but she gave it to her boyfriend to spend. "She cheated me out of 30,000, yet another boy said, saying she needed rent money, but she used it to travel. "She cheated me out of 400,000, I said. In my last life, I almost died for her." Everyone froze. "Past life?" they asked, looking at me in confusion. I smiled. "Just joking. Anyway, we need to join forces and expose her true colors." "All right," they all agreed. "We're with you." I said, "I've already collected recordings, photos, and chat logs. Do you have any evidence?" A boy said, "I have transfer records." A girl said, "I have chat logs." Another boy said, "I have her written promise." I said, "Good. We'll organize this evidence, and then, at the most opportune moment, expose her in public." We exchanged contact information, ready to expose Sophia together. I returned to the apartment and began to organize the evidence. Chat logs, recordings, photos, videos, and testimonies from other victims. I organized all of this into a folder and saved it on my phone. Then I began to plan. I would expose her publicly at the most opportune moment. A few days later, Sophia suddenly came to see me. She was wearing a beautiful dress and smiling sweetly. It was the prettiest dress she had, the one I bought her. She had on makeup and looked very beautiful. She looked at me seriously. "Honey, I have something to tell you." I asked, "What is it?" She suddenly dropped to one knee and took out a ring. "Let's get married. I want to have a home with you. I want to spend my life with you." Her eyes were red, and she looked very sincere. "These past 2 years, you've been so good to me. I'm really moved. You've given me so much. I'm truly grateful. I want to marry you. Want to have a home with you. Want to spend my life with you. Will you?" I froze. In my previous life, she never proposed to me. This time, she took the initiative to propose because she wanted to control my assets. She thought that after marriage, she could control my property. She thought she could dump me and be with Adrian. I looked at her and smiled. I said, "All right, I agree." Sophia hugged me excitedly. "That's wonderful. When shall we have the wedding?" I said, "Next week. I want everyone to witness our happiness." Sophia paused for a moment, then smiled. "Okay, we'll have a grand wedding." I sneered inwardly. "A grand wedding? Fine. I'll let everyone witness your true colors." Chapter 7. Sophia was busy preparing for the wedding, smiling happily every day. She booked the hotel, bought the wedding dress, sent out invitations. She sent invitations to all her friends. She thought that once we were married, she could control my assets. She thought she could dump me. She didn't know I had already gathered all the evidence. Chat logs, recordings, photos, videos, and testimonies from other victims. I compiled them into a folder, ready to play them publicly at the wedding. I watched Sophia bustling about and smiled. She thought everything was under her control. She didn't know the real one in control was me. Every day, she would discuss wedding details with me. "Darling, let's use red flowers, so festive." "All right. Darling, how many people should we invite?" "All our friends, colleagues, family. Invite them all." Sophia smiled. "Okay, we'll have a grand wedding." I looked at her and snorted inwardly. "A grand wedding? Fine. I'll make sure everyone sees your true colors." I began contacting friends, colleagues, and family. "I'm getting married next week. You all must come." Everyone was happy for me. Ryan said, "Bro, congratulations. You're finally getting married." I smiled. "Yes." Amelia said, "Congratulations. Take good care of yourself." "Thank you, Amelia." Colleague A, "Congratulations. I'll definitely be there." Colleague B, "That's great. I'll prepare a big red envelope for you." I smiled. Next week, everyone will witness Sophia's true colors. I opened my phone and messaged the other victims. "Next week, at the wedding, witness the truth." They all replied, "Okay, we'll definitely be there. Make her pay the price. We're with you." On the eve of the wedding, I reviewed all the evidence. Folders, recordings, photos, everything was ready. I put down my phone and looked out the window. Tomorrow would be the day Sophia would regret for the rest of her life. I smiled. I opened my phone and checked the time. 10 o'clock at night. Tomorrow, at 10 in the morning, the wedding begins. I laughed. "Sophia, you think you've won? You think you can deceive me for the rest of my life? You think you can control my assets? Fine, I'll play along with your performance. Then, at the moment you least expect, I'll expose you in public. I'll make you regret it for the rest of your life." I turned off the lights and lay down on the bed. Tomorrow will be your final day. Tomorrow will be your nightmare. Chapter 8. The wedding venue was beautifully decorated. Fresh flowers, balloons, streamers. The hotel lobby was filled with red roses, the air heavy with their scent. In the center of the stage stood a huge wedding photo. Sophia smiled so sweetly. Friends, colleagues, family had all arrived, and the hall was packed. Everyone was smiling happily, offering me their blessings. The other victims were there too, blending into the crowd, waiting for my signal. They looked at me with eyes full of support and expectation. Sophia stood on the stage in a pristine white wedding gown, smiling happily. She looked stunning today. The dress was beautiful and her makeup exquisite. She didn't know what awaited her. I stood opposite her and smiled too. I asked, "Are you ready?" Sophia nodded, her voice trembling with excitement. "I'm ready." "Good. I'm ready too." The master of ceremonies stood on the stage and began to host the wedding. "Dear guests, today we witness the marriage." As the MC recited the vows, Sophia listened with tears streaming down her face. She thought she had succeeded. She thought that after marriage, she could control my assets. She thought she could dump me and be with Adrian. What she didn't know was that I had already prepared all the evidence. The officiant turned to me. "Do you take Sophia to be your wife? Will you love and care for her, in sickness and in health, in poverty and in wealth, until forever?" I looked at Sophia and smiled. I said, "I do, but I have something to say." Sophia was taken aback. "What?" The master of ceremonies also froze. "What would you like to say?" I smiled gently. "I want to give my bride a surprise." Sophia's eyes lit up. She thought I was about to give her some gift. I dropped to one knee and took out the ring. I looked at her. "Sophia, will you marry me?" Sophia, overcome with emotion, had tears in her eyes. "I do." The whole room cheered, applause thundering. Sophia held out her hand, waiting for me to put the ring on. Her fingers trembled. She was overwhelmed with excitement. She thought she had won. She thought she could control my assets. She thought that from now on, my money would be hers. I smiled. I stood up and tossed the ring into the trash. "Sorry, I was just going along with your little show." The entire room fell silent. Everyone stood frozen. Sophia froze. What did you say?" I took a stack of photos from my pocket and scattered them into the air. The photos drifted down to the ground for everyone to see. There were photos of her checking into a hotel with Adrian. There were photos of her on dates with Adrian. There were photos of her being intimate with Adrian. One by one, the photos floated down and landed on the ground. The whole room erupted in astonishment. I picked up the microphone, my voice carrying across the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't invite you here today to witness a wedding, but to expose the truth. Sophia never loved me. She was only after my money. She cheated me out of 400,000, and she did the same to others. She proposed to me only because she wanted to seize control of my assets through marriage. Everyone look, these photos, these recordings, they're all evidence." I unlocked my phone and played the recording. Sophia's voice echoed across the room. "That fool doesn't even know. Once the money's in my hands, I'll dump him. He's so dumb, easy to deceive. He's just an ATM, nothing worth holding on to. My parents aren't sick at all. I gave all that money to Adrian. He's the one I truly love. Once I get the money, I'll dump him and be with you." A murmur of discussion erupted across the room. "My God, she really is that kind of person. She cheated so many people out of their money, and she still has the nerve to get married? Call the police. This kind of con artist should go to jail. Disgusting, what a person." One of the victims stood up and shouted, "She swindled me out of 100,000. Another victim stood up. "She cheated me out of 50,000. She swindled me for 80,000. She took all of our money." Sophia broke down, fell to her knees, and cried out, "No, it's not like that." I looked at her and said coldly, "Sophia, you cheated me out of 400,000 and caused me to die wronged in my past life. You never loved me. You were only after my money. Did you think I was easy to fool? I was only playing along with your show. Then at the moment you least expect it, I'll expose you publicly. Make you regret it for the rest of your life." Sophia cried out, "Please forgive me. I truly know I was wrong. I was just momentarily confused. I really did love you. Please give me one more chance. I'll treat you well." I sneered, "You're begging the wrong person. I don't need your love, nor do I need your regret. Go. We have nothing to do with each other anymore." Sophia collapsed, crying even harder. She knelt on the floor, clutching at the hem of my coat. "Please, I beg you to forgive me." I looked at her and said coldly, "It's too late. You cheated me out of 400,000, causing me to die wronged in my past life. Do you think I will forgive you? Sophia froze. I turned and walked away, never looking back. Behind me, Sophia's cries and the murmurs of the crowd. I laughed. This time, she would regret it for the rest of her life. Chapter 9. After the wedding, Sophia's reputation was completely ruined. Her fraud was exposed. Everyone knew she was a con. Photos, recordings, chat logs, all spread across the internet. The company fired her, citing moral turpitude, damaging the company's image. Friends stopped contacting her. Everyone found her disgusting. Adrian abandoned her too. I don't want a woman like you. You cheated so many people out of their money. I don't want to be implicated. Sophia collapsed, crying at home every day. She regretted it, but it was already too late. A few days later, Sophia came to me. She knelt before me, sobbing, and said, "Please forgive me. I really know I was wrong. I was just confused for a moment. I truly loved you. Please give me one more chance. I'll treat you well. I really regret it. Please don't do this." Her eyes were swollen and red, as if she had been crying for days. Her clothes were disheveled, and she looked exhausted. I looked at her and said coldly, "You begged the wrong person. I don't need your love, and I don't need your regret. Go. We have nothing to do with each other anymore." Sophia broke down, crying even harder. "I was really wrong. Please forgive me. I'll pay you back. I'll do anything. Please don't abandon me. I have nothing left now. No job, no friends. Even Adrian doesn't want me anymore. Please give me one more chance." I sneered. "Are you willing to do anything?" Sophia nodded desperately. "Yes, I do." I said, "Okay, then return all the money you swindled from everyone." Sophia froze. "Al, all the money?" I said, "Yes, you scammed me out of 400,000 and defrauded others of tens of thousands. Return all that money and I'll forgive you." Sophia's face went pale. I don't have that much money." I turned and walked away. "Then don't beg me for forgiveness. You don't deserve it." Sophia dropped to her knees, crying out, "Please, please give me one more chance." I didn't look back. I walked straight out. Other victims came to me, thanking me for exposing Sophia. A young man said, "Thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't even know I was being scammed." A young woman said, "You're amazing. You gathered so much evidence." I said, "Let's join forces and report her to the police. Let her pay the legal price." Everyone agreed. "All right, let's call the police together. Put her in jail. This kind of swindler can't be let go." A few days later, Sophia was taken away by the police on suspicion of fraud. She cried out, "I really know I was wrong. Please, I'm begging you, let me go." But no one paid any attention to her. She had cheated so many people out of their money and had to pay the price. I returned to the apartment and sat on the sofa. The pent-up frustrations from my past life finally released. Sophia regretted it. Adrian abandoned her, and the police took her away. I was relieved too. This time, I didn't play the fool again. I made her regret it for the rest of her life. I smiled. From now on, I'm starting a new life. No more being deceived. No more being hurt. I deserve better. I looked out the window and smiled. This time my life begins again. I unlocked my phone and messaged Ryan. "Bro, thank you for always standing by me." Ryan replied, "Bro, you did the right thing. That kind of woman isn't worth it." I smiled. I messaged Amelia. "Thank you, Amelia." Amelia replied, "Take care of yourself. I will always be by your side, supporting you." I looked at her message and smiled. Perhaps some people are worth starting over with. Chapter 10. A few months later, I got promoted. From mid-level developer to senior developer, my salary went up by 5,000. My colleagues were all envious of me, and the leadership valued me highly. The boss said, "You've been doing very well lately. Keep it up." I smiled. "Thank you, boss." My life settled into a routine. Commute, work, gym, read. Days without Sophia were actually easier. I no longer had to save money for her, no longer had to carry her debts. The money I earned was all mine. I smiled. "This is the life I want." She smiled. "Shall we go hiking together?" I smiled. "Sure. Which mountain do you want to climb?" "Whatever you decide." Amelia said, "I heard you got promoted. congratulations. I smiled. Thanks, you're impressive too. Your project went really well. I said, that's long past. I'm fine now. I looked at her and smiled. Thank you, Amelia. Sunlight poured over the mountain, and the air was fresh. I felt very calm. Amelia suddenly said, I have something I want to tell you. I asked what? Some people, if missed, are missed forever. But some people are worth starting over with. I stared her, stunned. Amelia continued, I don't know if you'll want this, but I want you to know I'll be by your side, supporting you. If you're willing, we can. I smiled. I said, Amelia, thank you. I also think some people are worth starting over with. Amelia's eyes lit up. Really? We sat on the hilltop, watching the distant scenery. Sunlight poured over us, warm and gentle. I finally let go of the suffocation I remembered from my past life. Sophia deceived me and hurt me, but she didn't defeat me. I was reborn, I fought back, and I made her regret it for the rest of her life. Now, I've met someone truly worth having. Amelia is kind, sincere, and independent. She won't lie to me or harm me. She deserves to be cherished. I looked at Amelia and smiled. I said, Amelia, thank you for always being by my side. Amelia smiled sweetly. I'll always be here for you, supporting you and keeping you company. I took her hand and smiled. This time my life begins anew. This time, I will cherish it properly. This time, I deserve better. After coming down the mountain, we walked together on the street. Sunlight poured over us, warm and gentle. I looked at Amelia and smiled. I said, Amelia, let's be together. Amelia froze, then smiled. She said, all right, I do. We walked hand in hand down the street. Sunshine spilled over us, warm and comforting. A few months later, Sophia was sentenced. For fraud, she received a 3-year sentence. But no one paid her any attention. She cheated so many people out of their money. She must pay for it. When I heard the news, I smiled. She regretted it, but it was already too late. Some people, once missed, are missed forever. Not worth looking back. A year later, Amelia and I got married. The wedding was simple, with only our closest friends and family. Ryan clapped me on the shoulder. Bro, congrats. This time you picked the right one. Amelia wore a pristine white wedding dress, smiling sweetly. She wasn't like Sophia. She truly loved me. I stood at the wedding venue, looking at Amelia. She smiled so sweetly, her eyes full of tenderness. I took her hand and said, Amelia, thank you for being willing to marry me. Amelia smiled sweetly, because you deserve it. Yes, I deserve it. I deserve to be treated sincerely. I deserve to be cherished. I deserve a better life.